Hello and welcome back to the Engerat studio. I'm now joined by Raj Samani, who is involved in so many things. He is a better person to introduce himself than me. So Raj, over to you. Tell us who you are.
So thanks. So my name's Raj Samani. I'm the EMEA CTO at McAfee, but I also am the Chief Innovation Officer for the Cloud Security Alliance and Special Advisor for the European Cybercrime Centre.
And that puts you in a perfect place to talk about some of the things that are affecting this industry. But let me take it back one step, because we recently did a webinar with you and we touched on a few themes, but one of the ones that really caught my eye and I just thought that sounds really cool, which is the concept of digital oil fields, and but I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, so I mean, when we start to talk around cybersecurity, and certainly as an industry, there's this concept of fear-mongering. I mean, there's that piece of malware from 2009 beginning with S. I'm not allowed to mention it because in our book, I said if you hear me mention the S word, I have to pay £5.
Right. That could mount up.
Well, especially if we've got 12,000 people viewing this, I certainly can't afford to make that mistake.
Yeah.
But really, the concept of digital oil fields is, I guess, more around the way that I see security and the way that we as a company see security, which is security can be an enabler. And by that, what I mean is, the digital oil field is the ability for an oil company to be able to control offshore drilling equipment through a central location using technology. So we have a clear return on investment here. Rather than having to send somebody on site, rather than having to actually fly somebody with a helicopter to go and check something out, everything can all be managed and controlled centrally via technology.
And since you mentioned that, I've done a bit of digging, and some of these remote oil fields are incredibly remote from the SCADA center, that or the control center.
Absolutely, but it seems strange talking about oil and gas in a utility week, but the same principle can be applied here. I mean, ask yourself of a utility, how many mid-level substations do you have? 20, 30, 40,000, many of them in remote locations. So what we're able to do is we're able to take that concept of, the digital oil field and implement it in a utility perspective where, if, for example, there's a computer virus or a system needs rebooting or any form of management required, we can fully manage this from a central location. So the ROI, can be literally in the space of weeks.
And when you have a system like that, like with any system, there must be you must build in a lot of redundancies in order to, because it's only economically viable if you have those redundancies, so that you send the person or the high cost maintenance absolutely when you need it, or try and make that a bit more methodical as well.
Yeah, and funny actually you mentioned that, because a lot of people say to me, well, that's not secure. Why would you ever connect the two systems up? But I would argue that it's even more secure than what we have today, because today many environments have what we call an air gap. In other words, we have what they call a separation between really their command and control network and their IT environment. But invariably those air gaps are circumvented by USB sticks or lazy operators or anything really. So what we do is we actually go through a really rigorous process of actually trying to understand what the risks are. So today people think they're secure, but they have their eyes closed. In the future, and certainly what we're working on is understanding those risks and going into them with your eyes open.
Because one of the other interviews I did also told a story that was actually brought that home, where they said, if we have that sort of operational oversight of everything, then if you think about it, you don't really want to send someone into a substation if it's about to blow up, and you don't actually want it to blow up. And it's an extreme example, but at the moment there is a risk.
Sounds like fear-mongering. Just to be clear, I know we said we wouldn't do fear-mongering, but yeah.
But what that highlighted to me is the huge opportunity, whereby you could say, well, actually, if I can get an accurate profile of that substation, I can go in proactively and make sure that it's still got another 5 years of life, if that's possible, or proactively change that, rather than react to things.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into a what-if scenario, right? What if this substation were to blow up? Because again, we're moving into scaremongering. What we clearly have here is an absolute return on investment and efficiencies in which technology, which is secured, can improve operations exponentially for any environment. That's what we're talking around. We're talking around enabling businesses and enabling them to be able to, because, you know, let's be honest, trying to find good people, trying to find technically skilled people is hard work, and we're able to kind of move away from that somewhat to move towards this environment of, you know, a fully automated, fully online, smart grid.
So are you seeing a world where some of that, and you touched on it, and it's like finding the people with the skills to do it, to a world where some of that skill set is actually almost outsourced to companies like McAfee, Intel, where, look, we've got this, we do this day in, day out, you know, Intel, world leader in chipset manufacture, you know, the famous reason for McAfee, Intel combination, you know, that it's all at the core, at manufacture, built in, that we've got the skills, we will partner with you guys, and we will give you the management space, a bit like that Rolls-Royce analogy. We'll monitor the engine for you, don't worry about it.
You know, I think you touched on it exactly. You know, it's not outsourced because nobody understands your business more than you. But equally, nobody understands silicon more than Intel, and nobody understands security better than McAfee. So, in fact, in a few weeks' time, you'll see an announcement. I think one of the world's first announcements where we're actually partnering with a utility to help identify ways in which we can utilize secure technology to help them enable the smart grid. So for us, it's very much a kind of a partnership approach where we're working with companies who understand their business, but we understand the silicon, we understand the security, and we can best implement a solution together. So for us, it's very much a partnership rather than the outsourced model.
Yeah. And so we're getting closer to the theme of our show. When you talk about the enablement of the smart grids, an immediate question comes in that what are some of the challenges that are being faced? And I've got another question, but I'm not going to ask you two at once. So if we go from that and hopefully onto my next question.
Well, I mean, you know, to me, one of the biggest challenges we face is with regards to consumer adoption. You know, there's a lot of fear-mongering amongst citizens that, you know, if you go to the smart grid, then, you know, you're going to give up all of your data to Big Brother, and, you know, recent events would kind of emphasize that. In fact, there was a recent story of a lady actually holding a gun to an engineer, preventing him from coming on site. I kind of want to be controversial here. I mean, you know, the security concerns absolutely are security concerns, and you can read about that in the book. But ways in which we can provide a value back to the consumer and articulate that value and even provide the monetary return, I think is one of the ways that is one of the biggest challenges facing, you know, utilities out there. But it's an achievable. It's something we can overcome, and it's something we can achieve.
So, and again, a lot of people have been saying that we need to engage the consumer. We need to tell them a bit more. It's like, so let's imagine for a second we're talking to a consumer. What should we be saying? Because I agree with you. I think some of the messages that certainly, and I know a bit about this space, that I'm getting as a consumer, I'm like, actually, guys, you might be missing a trick here with this sort of stuff. What's the tone? What are the type of things that you would say? And I this is you, not
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look, here's what I would say. You know, if we start to move down this new path, there is a way for you to be able to save money. There is a way for you to even make money. You know, I mean, ask yourself a question. I think the Boston Consulting Group predicted what we call a personal data economy as being worth in the region of $15 trillion. 2/3 of that can be realized by the consumer. And here we have a system which has the ability to be able to collect and collate data, to be able to provide advice and recommendations with regards to energy usage, efficient energy usage. You know, surely this is something we want to do. I mean, aren't you fed up of going to a petrol station and seeing the price of petrol increasing every single week, every single month? You know, this is the world that we're moving towards, and I think it's articulating that value. You know, and that value comes down to many people with how much money they have in their pocket.
But I do think a lot of people don't understand that and it may not work on an individual scale, but how a collective change can help them actually enable the fact that petrol stays a bit more stable, or reliance on wholesale gas prices, and I think that's where this industry gets loses the point a little bit. It gets too complex too quickly. No one's putting that message across in a simple way, not to insult the consumer's intelligence, but most people aren't that interested in energy.
Yeah, but I mean, what do people care about? If you turn around to somebody and said, we've got a more reliable grid, we've got, okay, way over people's heads.
Yeah.
If you turn around to somebody and said, well, actually, you're going to be able to save, I don't know, £3,000 on your bill annually, or £2,000 on your bill, that's a direct value statement that you can give. Most people don't have to live through a blackout, fortunately, certainly for us in the West. I mean, it's very rare. So giving that worst case what if scenario, it's almost kind of like, well, yeah, but when I switch my TV on, it comes on. What do you mean it's not reliable? It's absolutely reliable. So I think, giving the value statement back to the consumer where it's tangible to them, I think is the way forward.
And, going a little bit further, because we are coming to the end of our time in the studio, and I feel with you, we could probably do 10 of these on
probably
10
need
different
drinks, don't we, and biscuits.
Exactly, and hopefully we can do that another time. I'd love to do that. But what do you see as the opportunities of the smart grid? And herein I give you a challenge. It's not the obvious ones, the ones we've all heard already, the operational efficiency and things like that, but with someone like you who's involved in some cutting edge stuff, it's like going, actually, here is something that really could be big, and not many people are thinking about it in this way.
So this is really controversial, and I know I'm going to get a lot of abuse for this, but I think, yes, the meter has the ability to be able to collect a lot of data. But if we were able to leverage that data and provide clear transparency and consent, then perhaps the utility can do things like, if you're using a washing machine which is not efficient, wouldn't it be great if a washing machine manufacturer can contact you personally and say, that washing machine you've got is not very efficient, why don't you buy this one and you'll get an ROI in 3 months? So I, as the consumer, benefit because I've managed to save money. The utility potentially has benefited by providing, an opportunity, a warm sales lead, and the appliance manufacturer benefits because they manage to sell new technology. This new world, this world of personal data, I think it's been cited, personal data is the new oil for the digital economy. Well, the utilities are going to be at the forefront of that. It's not going to be the social media.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really controversial idea, but
I buy into it because the analogy that I take is, when TfL opened up all the route master data and all that sort of stuff and said, look, we could build an app, but we'd get a better solution if we just open up the data, and anybody who wants to build an app on it can build an app on it, and the best app wins. And I could see a similar situation where, your point about choice is right. If I say, okay, I'll open up my data, I'll download an app, and the best app that helps me do the best thing.
It's like insurance.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, we used to make a phone call to 20 different insurance agencies, and it used to take you 3 to 4 days to do that. Today, your data is potentially stored somewhere, and you get an email telling you where the cheapest place for you to buy car insurance is. You don't have to do any work, and you get the best deal. Well, you know what? If we look at the government approach at My Data in the United Kingdom, if we look at other approaches across the world, like the Green and the Blue Button Initiative in the United States, personal data has monetary value, and the utilities and the consumers have the opportunity to benefit. So this is some of the work that we're looking to do with regards to some of the partnerships we're doing, because give the consumers transparency and give them the choice, and you know what? There's a great value for them. There's a great value for all of us.
No, absolutely, and Raj, again, we're at the end of our time, and it does seem like a shame. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoyed watching this, and if our platform is doing its job, there's a link to the webinar that we mentioned earlier on there. Again, I encourage you to go ahead and watch that, as well as some of the presentations that are relevant to this theme from the conference. Raj, thanks once again.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.